Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to the channel. It's wrap up time today. Let's go and have a look at how my April reading went. So as is often the way recently, I had a bit of an up and down reading month in April, but I'm happy to say that it was mostly up. There were only a couple of slightly down parts to that, and the numbers when just looked at in isolation, they look pretty good as well, so I'm really happy with how it went. I did have a DNF. I had a series that I started the first book of and decided not to continue with, but I had some great reads to end the month. I was away, you might have seen in my May TBR video, we went up to Scotland at the end of the month, and during the train journey I did some really good reading and also some reading whilst I was there, so I did manage to actually finish a couple of the books that are on my May TBR in April instead. So let's get into those books. First of all, as usual, I'm going to start off with the stats though. You can skip this if you want to and just hear about the books using the timestamps down below. But for April I read 5 books and a novella, plus there was that DNF as well. So excluding the DNF, I had 2,791 pages completed in April. That gives me a year to date at the moment of 11,471. Excluding also the novella, the average page count for the month was 533, taking the average year to date page count up to 473. And the average rating was also a little bit up on the previous month, sitting at 4.08, which drags the year-to-date average rating up slightly as well to 4.02. As far as the series go, I've still only started one series that I'm continuing with in 2025. I don't know how I've managed that, because normally this is a bit of a runaway stat for me, but just the one series so far. I've got one series that I've finished as well. That will be increasing, but it's going to take a little bit of time, especially because a couple of the series I've got at the start of the year are quite lengthy. I've got 5 series now that I've read the first book of and decided, no, it's not for me. I'm not going to continue with the series. Of the series that I am continuing with, there are 36, of which I am up to date with 17. And then the day since the last 5-star read is currently sitting at 5 days. So as far as the books go then, as usual, I'll start with the DNF if there is one. This one was an audiobook this month. It was a sci-fi from my 2025 reading plan, and it was Yoon-Ha Lee's Machineries of Empire Book 1, Nine Fox Gambit. Yes, I did forget what the title was, and as I was hoping, it came to me by the time I'd finished building up to it. This one, it sounded quite good. I do like a military sci-fi. I do like sometimes when you get really in depth with the tactics side of it, it can work really well for me. Here though, it just didn't. And I said in my review on Goodreads that as I was going through the audiobook, I was hearing it, but I wasn't really listening to it. It wasn't sticking with me. It was just leaving me pretty much as soon as or as quickly as I was taking the information in. I wasn't connected to it. I wasn't connected with the characters or the setting or the story itself. So yeah, it just worked out. I said that it wasn't that I couldn't necessarily say anything bad about it. It's just that it wasn't for me. Probably the one bad thing, the one real thing which made it not for me was, as I said, those tactics. They can sometimes work really well for me, but this one was the opposite kind of example. It just didn't work for me at all. It was quite unusual because it was all based on the mathematics of it, and I don't have a count, but the number of times that the word math or mathematics was used in the opening 20 or so % of this book was ridiculous. I got fed up of hearing it. So yeah, it just didn't work for me. It's not one that I had anything which kind of made me think, yeah, if I push through for a little bit longer, I can actually turn this around and I can start to enjoy it. So I'll put it down at 19%, about a fifth of the way through the book. So as far as the books that I did finish go though, I only actually have one physical copy, and that one was from my 2025 reading plan, and it's from my out of my comfort zone category, so it's not the sort of book that I would generally pick up. This one was Third Lock from the Sun by Rex Burke. It's a sci-fi, and the reason that it's not normally my cup of tea. It's contemporary, it's set in the modern day, it's set in our world as well. Both of those are factors that I just don't go for in the fiction that I read. This one was, it was kind of light-hearted. It was very, very, very easy to read. The pages were just turning so quickly for me because the writing style was so accessible. I really, really enjoyed that for it. The book itself was one that I did like overall. It was very much a pleasant surprise for me. I found that there wasn't really a big climax to the story. It didn't fizzle out, but it did kind of end without a big hurrah. It was kind of ticking along quite nicely, and then you had the ending kind of introduced, and it, I guess, came up out of nowhere. There was always the expectation that's where we would go, but it didn't seem like there was any big conflict leading to it or anything along those lines. So it was kind of a little bit weird. But I guess that fits the theme of the book, because it would have been a bit out of place if you had this big explosive kind of ending to it. It wouldn't really sit with the rest of the book. There's some real nice light-hearted moments in here. As I said, the writing was just so easy to get on with, so a really, really pleasant surprise. I did enjoy this one quite a lot. I ended up giving it 4 stars. The rest of the books then, as I say, I don't have physical copies to hold up, so we'll move into, as my months this year so far have started off, the audiobook series that I have ongoing at the moment, which is Crown of Stars by Kate Elliott. For April month 4, I was in book 4, which was Child of Flame. I'm not going to talk too much about it, except to say that, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm enjoying this series overall. It's a good continuation. If you've read any of my reviews, or if you've seen them in my wrap-ups of the earlier books in this series, you pretty much have an idea of what I would say here, because it's just a good continuation. There's nothing that really stuck out, really set it apart in terms of the direction it was taken or anything like that from the previous books. It's just a great continuation of the series. I did really enjoy some of the character development that you got in here. One of my favourite characters now is turning out to be the young eagle, which is kind of a king's messenger by the name of Hannah. She had a great character arc for my liking in this book. I really enjoyed listening to her kind of adventure. Part of that is, I guess, because the characters I was really attached to the most in the earlier books, some of those have I've started to get less interested in their story. They've taken a bit of maybe a strange turn, I don't know, kind of going into odd little pocket dimensions almost, it seems, for a couple of them. And I just wasn't as invested in that, but I really enjoyed the story as I was following Hannah and the people around her. The series overall, I'm now into book 5. I just started it yesterday, so 2 more to go after I finish this one. And yeah, it's one of the early highlights of my year. I'm really getting on well with the series so far. This wasn't, I think, my favourite book of the series so far. I think the book 3 did beat it a little bit, but I still gave this one 4.5 stars because I just had a great time with it. Then we've got another fantasy book. This one was Memory of Song by Scott Palmer. It's book 1 of The Last Ballad. I read this one not really knowing what I was going to be getting myself into. I didn't read the synopsis first of all. I do like to go into books blind quite often, and yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You just don't know until you get into the book. The story here I thought was pretty decent. I got along with it quite well. We had a few different characters who started out together, and then right at the start of the book you're sort of dropped into the action pretty much as they've just been attacked and they've been separated, and ultimately they're trying to work their way back together, although in a very circuitous way. They're not directly kind of trying to backtrack or anything along those lines and meet up. It's just kind of they're doing odd little things, and meeting up is, for at least one of the characters, a little bit in the back of his mind, even though he desperately wants to. So that was a little bit strange, because it didn't seem that there was any real impetus to him trying to find his colleagues or his friends, his comrades, one of whom he is desperate to get back to because they are to be wed. So yeah, it was a little bit strange in that respect. I did find probably the main thing that I didn't enjoy, or that stopped me from enjoying the book as a whole, was the narrative was a little bit jumpy for me. We had various times where you would start a chapter and it would be giving you a bit of background on a character basically. So we'd have little time jumps, you'd have flashbacks, you'd have, sometimes it would be a character who was asleep and it would be a dream, or you'd have a vision, and there were quite a few of these, and sometimes it wasn't necessarily signposted very well, so it was sometimes difficult to know, am I in the present? Is this really happening? Is it a vision? Is it a flashback? So that kind of spoiled it for me a little bit. It threw me out of the narrative flow, so to speak. And it's one of the things that when it does come up in a book, especially with flashbacks, I often don't enjoy them because I find this kind of disruption of the narrative for me as I'm reading it. So yeah, that was one of the main things here, but the other elements of a story, the characters, the world building, the actual plot itself, I didn't find that they were strong enough to kind of get over that little disappointment for me. So it ended up being one that I've decided not to continue reading as one of my ongoing series, and this one I did as a result give just 3 stars to. So then we get on to 3 books that I was reading whilst I was away in Scotland, and the first of those is Parallax, Book 2 of Sentient Stars by Amber Torrow. I had an early review copy of this and I was 20% into it when I got on the train to Scotland, and by the time I got off I was nearly finished with it because I had such a great time. I was a captive audience, even though I did have my wife and my daughter with me and some great scenery through the windows as we were travelling the countryside. I was just so engrossed in this book because I was having a great time with it. In Umbra, we're introduced to these characters and we're given the spark that sets off this great war in space, whereas in Parallax we really kind of scale that narrative down, and it allows us to focus on the characters, get some background in them, really work on the character growth rather than the overall kind of big picture story growth. And I really enjoy that because although you've still got the war there in the background and our characters are looking for the answers to help stop this war, it's definitely still there. So it allows us to kind of have a passage of time right at the start of this war rather than kind of following the initial threads of it. And I think that could work really well as we get into book 3, because once we get there, I'm expecting the war will be maybe in the early stages still, but it will be in full swing. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it because there are some great battles in Parallax. There are some really interesting ones as well. It's not just your normal kind of space battles, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. The intensity is right up there. I love how that was done and how it was building through various scenes and very different scenes as well, not just battles. So yeah, I really had a great time with Parallax. It was one that I just binged and I was happy to do so, and it's my 5-star read, the only 5-star read I had in April, but very much deserving of it. When I finished Parallax, I read a novella. This was Son of the Thunder Goddess by Andrew Levesque, book 1 of the Ways of Athawain. I think it's the Ways of Athawain. I didn't write it down. I really enjoyed this one. It's another book that's got kind of a dual narrative. I mentioned before about flashbacks and how they often don't work for me. This one kind of had flashbacks, so it had alternating chapters. You start off with the present day, and then every alternate chapter goes back a little bit into the past and kind of details how our characters got to where they are in the present day. So some of the things that are spoken about in the present day chapters, you then learn how they came up originally and how our character learnt about them, and you see when he was told what he's explained in the present day, things like that. So sometimes I find that really doesn't work, but here I think it was done really well, and it definitely worked, and it enhanced the story as well, because we're not just given everything on a plate, we're given the information that we need kind of when we need it, even though the character we're following obviously already had that information. So yeah, I really appreciated how it was worked here, and it led to a really interesting novella. There was some good action scenes and some good little bits of character building for a novella, and also a little bit of world building sprinkled in here and there as well. So I'm looking forward to continuing this one, to seeing how the story and how the world and how the characters all develop, hopefully in a full novel or two. But if it's going to progress in a series of novellas, then you know what, I had a good time with this one, so I wouldn't be displeased at that either. This is another one that I gave 4 stars to. And then the last read that I had for April was the audiobook that I just picked up. It wasn't planned, but I was looking for something after my DNF of Nine Fox Gambit, and I went for a comfort read. So this one was The Death of Dulgaf, which is book 3 of the Rhaenyra Chronicles by Michael J. Sullivan. I know exactly what I'm going to be getting when I go for one of these books, although I won't know the specifics of the plot for the individual book. They all follow a theme, and it's, as I say, it's a comfort read. It's Royce and Hadrian as our two main characters. They are just characters that I'm really, really comfortable with. I love following their adventures, I love their banter, and I love how they keep getting into scrapes and then keep finding novel and often very amusing ways of getting out of those scrapes. With this one, because the Chronicles are earlier on to Rhaenyra Revelations, which was the first series of theirs that I read, we're still forming that relationship. They're still learning how to trust each other, and as we're now in the third book here with The Death of Dulgaf, you can see that they've actually started to trust each other and they're now just realising that's the case. And I like how we get to see that dynamic build and the shift as they realise that they do actually like each other, they do actually trust each other implicitly. The story itself I thought was quite interesting. It was, you start off with, they get hired to do a job basically, that's what they do. But this one is, rather than protect someone or kill someone or anything along those lines, they're employed to explain how they would kill someone, so that the people trying to stop this person being killed can put measures in place to stop it happening, basically. Royce is kind of a legendary assassin, so they want to use his experience to see how he would pull off the job. And yeah, there are some twists and turns in there. Some of those are not necessarily unexpected, although, you know, a twist really should be. You could kind of, if you know how these things go, you can see it coming a mile off, but there were still some nice little bits that I didn't expect that went around it, so I think that was quite well done. I did enjoy this one overall. It wasn't my favourite of the stories, but whatever the story is, and even if it's one that's not really going too well, Royce and Hadrian always find a way to elevate it for me, so yeah, it's one that I did enjoy overall. Not my favourite Sullivan, but definitely not my least favourite, and it was another 4-star read for me. So that's my April. It started off pretty decently. It had a little dip in the middle with a DNF and a series not continuing, but then it ended on an absolute high for me with some really great reads in the month. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to my May reading, because I'm continuing with some cracking reads at the start of the month. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these and if you agreed with me or if you had different thoughts, and also what did you read in April and how did it go. I'll hopefully catch you in the next video sometime soon. Till then, as always, take care of yourselves, read some good books. Bye for now.